Well, Olaf, I think, loves Storm Raider Surge. He cannot trigger Courage of the Colossus. I think Grasp is too slow. Wind Speakers is dumb. Thunderlords is dumb. I think Fervor is an option. I think Storm Raiders is an option. So let's do a Storm Raiders jungler, right? We are gonna get in there. We are damage focused. We want the mobility. Okay, well we're a jungler, so obviously savagery. We're a jungler, so to be honest though, Olaf doesn't need potions, so we're gonna go Runic Affinity instead. We're gonna go Merciless with let's put a point in meditation. And to be fair, depending on what your mana pool looks like when jungling, I think it's not unreasonable to go 5 points meditation in the jungle. I think that can be okay. Because I mean, this doesn't help you clear the jungle. This does sometimes. And it's debatable. If you're not going to get to start blue, meditation helps a ton. Like Fiddlesticks might care a lot. But we'll just do this for now. I think this is fine. I'm a jungler, so Greenfather's Gift, like Savagery, Greenfather's Gift, Insight, and Tough Skin, I think are like practically mandatory. Okay, now 5 CDR versus some Armor Pen is actually totally a reasonable debate to have. I think I'm actually going to go with Intelligence on Olaf. I think it's, well, no. Here's the thing. Precision's clear speed. 8.5 lethality gives you armor penetration at level 1 to help kill jungle camps. Jungle camps do level up over the course of the game. You will get more armor pen from lethality later on in, but this helps you actually clear the jungle. To be fair, so does 5 cooldown reduction, but this helps your auto attacks. And so I think you're hard pressed to not go precision. I think it's close though. I think this is close. I think this is debatable, absolutely. Let's go Storm Raiders because that sounds freaking sweet. Now as Olaf, I could simply go Fury into Feast, into Damage, into Battle Trance. And that feels pretty sweet. That's a lot of damage. That's 4% attack speed. Stay healthy in the jungle. I mean, I don't need to do that. I could just go Fresh Blood and have it, help me fight champions, but that feels a little crappy. I mean, to be fair, I don't need the health from Feast because I'm Olaf, so maybe this is the right choice. Yeah, bonus stats feels good. Why not? Although Lifesteal's probably better. Nah, let's go with that. Right, so this is reasonable, right? This feels like this makes sense. I would not. Well, I mean, you could go Double-Edged Sword on Olaf as well. Yeah, you're going to take more damage in a team fight, and your goal is to be somewhat tanky. But hey, your clear speed is bonkers, and you've just gotten a ton of clear speed boosters, right? This is insane clear speed going for like masteries like this. This is actually kind of ridiculous. This is a lot. You're doing, I want to say like 15% more damage than you were without this, maybe even higher. But this makes you very frail. You've gotten no tank stats in any way, and you're melee running into battles. And keep in mind, as soon as you reach team fights, you're going to be hurting a little bit, right? Life's going to get hard. And, the funny thing is, even though we're getting all happy about Storm Raider Surge, like, we could just get a reduced cooldown on Ghost, and we're in a very similar situation. So maybe, even though this is great for clear speed, and, we've got Double-Edged Sword, we've got bonus attack damage, if we did go, maybe Olaf gets resist, so, we try this out, and I mean, the thing is, Olaf is a very special case. Olaf does not need any help juggling in any way, because he's just so good at it. So a lot of this is, like, kind of weird to look for. I mean, technically this helps clear speed, because you run around through brushes and get your next camp faster. Like, theoretically, this is actually useful for Olaf. I don't think this is correct, but, like, these would actually all, give value. I'm trying to think of, like, other champions that would do this. Like, I mean, someone brought up Hecarim in chat, for example, as someone who might want Storm Raider Surge, and I think Hecarim would still rather go Courage of the Colossus, personally. But it's debatable. But let's go hard. Let's say this is Olaf, right? Let's say we're really playing Olaf, in which case we don't need any of these durability points. In which case we can really just go hard. And look, this endangers us in team fights. We are very squishy building this way in team fights. And actually, we're going to do that. It is not hard to kill an Olaf who builds this way. There's no defenses anywhere, and that is scary. Normally, Olaf was all the way down here. He had 300 points from Strength of the Ages. He had Tenacity here from Swiftness. He had the Insight. He had Runic Armor or Veteran Scars for regen. He had, you know, some defensive tool here, some defensive tool here, and that was a lot that added up that made Olaf more durable. And he doesn't have that by doing this. And you know, this requires you to play quite a bit differently. And in competitive, I would expect to see this. I don't think we'll see this from something like Olaf. Maybe from like a Nidalee or something, but you know, I don't really see this happening that much. So let's look at something else, right? Let's call this one Hecarim since it's been requested. And I think Hecarim definitely wants Courage of the Colossus. It's just so good. His really clear sucks. Let's get into the early clear masteries. Great, wonderful. Bam, that was easy, right? Because, hey, this helps your clear. This helps your clear. This is just, I think, a mandate for all junglers, no matter what. A lot of it just because of their first clear. Insight, until we're proven otherwise, I think is still the best keystone at this tier in Resolve. And then, yeah, Swiftness, I think for pretty obvious reasons. Legendary Guardian isn't bad, to be completely honest. It's not, but, I mean, neither helps you jungle, to be fair, but you know, having tenacity and slow resist as a diver like this just feels correct. And then, of course, Courage of the Colossus is very, very easy to trigger. So, of course, we're going to go for this. This makes total sense. And I think, honestly, that is very easy to make the case to do this. To say, let's go Greenfather's Gift. Helps me clear the jungle. Hecarim now has good single target damage. Just make sure you jump into the brush once in a while and hit the red buff. You do 3% of Gromp's max health. You do 3% of the Big Wolf's health. You do 3% of Red Buff's health. That's useful. That's great. This feels very good. I think this is correct. I can't. There's nothing that's like really obvious that I want to change here. I think courage is almost a mandate. So we move on. You say, okay, well, what about someone else? What about? And actually, at this point, it's a different number. So I'm actually curious. We're at maybe 7. So let's say we're playing Kha'Zix, right? Let's say we're playing an assassin now in the jungle, right? We had a fighter who, again, like first, like, and here's why I think this is actually, even though this feels like really nice, I think this is wrong on Olaf. If you're the kind of champion who is melee and wants Storm Raider's Surge, you should be tanky. Because by going Storm Raiders instead of Thunderlords, you're not trying to, or don't think you can, one-shot somebody, right? If you think you'd one-shot somebody, and that was your goal, you just go Thunderlords. So you have damage enough to trigger Storm Raiders, like you're not playing a Mumu jungle, you're not playing Nautilus jungle, you're playing Olaf. Olaf has good damage. He doesn't one-shot you, but he has good damage. And he wants to stay in the fight, because he's going Storm Raiders. He could have just not gone Storm Raiders. Not gotten anywhere here. But keep in mind, he is a melee jungler. And in early game, you're in, you know, little 2v2s and 3v2s, that's fine. But in a team fight, where you're fighting over the dragon and the Baron Pit and whatnot, and you're not durable, and none of any of your Keystone Masteries gives you any durability, hell, you're even taking Double-Edged Sword, now you die faster, this is a big risk. This is going to make Olaf suck in the late game. And the problem is, like, I think, you know, to be a competitive Olaf, you probably cut Ferocity and you go into Resolve and you get bonus health and stuff. But whatever, we're going to move on. You know, as a diver, yeah, you're going Courage of the Colossus and you're probably going to get Greenfather's Gift on top of it. I just want to make sure I picked up Greenfather's on Olaf. Yeah, I did. Good. Okay, so let's talk about Kha'Zix. Well, what's Kha'Zix want to do? Well, he wants to use Thunderlords. Because you can one-shot somebody. And I think it's correct that if you one-shot somebody, you evolved leap or you ultimate and you get away. If you don't want, you know, if you can't one-shot somebody, then okay, right? If that's kind of where the balance lies, and, you know, I think if you're playing top Kha'Zix, I think Storm Raiders makes sense, because you're like, oh shit, I'm getting ganked. You blow a bunch of cooldown on somebody, chunk them down by 1/3, and then you've got a bunch of moves and you get out. Like, there's a lot of cases where Storm Raider Surge is a really good defensive keystone for assassins and quasi-assassins, because you're just like, oh, do a bunch of damage, okay, now I'm out. And that can be great. That can be really, really good. Or if your combat pattern is a little bit longer, I think Talon's a good example of this in some cases, and Akali is a good example of this in some cases, and I think Echo is actually a really good example of this right now. Where your fight's going to last quite a while, and you're not going to one-shot somebody, you're going to need to do some finesse. And I think especially in top lane matches where they're gonna counter build you and their first item's gonna be a Raptor Cloak or something, and then they're gonna get a Giant's Belt. Well, Storm Raiders Surge, you're not gonna one shot them with Thunderlords, so maybe you go Storm Raiders and you now you have some gameplay around the fights. That feels pretty good. So, you know, top lane Kha'Zix I think might really want Storm Raiders. Top lane Kha'Zix might want Deathfire Touch. Okay, I trade with you, I land QW and I walk away. Well, I got a full duration Deathfire Touch on you for that trade. Feels pretty good. Jungle Kha'Zix, I think you're definitely going Thunderlords. I think you're trying to one-shot people exclusively. So I'm jungling. So I'm jungling. So I'm jungling. Well, and I'm trying to one-shot people. So I'm jungling. So I'm an assassin. So I'm an assassin. I think this is pretty obvious. Generally speaking, I think there is, you know, room for debate for Runic Affinity. There's room for debate for Assassin. But your Q and your auto attack affect Savagery. I don't think you can change that in the slightest. They say, okay, well, this is debatable. 2% ability damage or 4% attack speed. This helps your jungle clear. This is 4% more auto attack damage. It's 2% more spell damage. Early game, you're doing more auto attack damage. Once you evolve Q, you're doing more spell damage. But once you're level 9, you can clear the jungle for free anyway. That doesn't help you. It doesn't matter at that point. But in terms of one-shotting people, sorcery means more, and you're probably doing this. As long as you can clear the jungle fast, you don't need feast. You can just go fresh blood and you do a little bit more damage. You try to burst somebody. Okay, that feels fine. Natural talent, and you know, I think in the jungle, vampirism is hard to say you really love. The reason being is you've already got 10% lifesteal from the Hunter's Machete, and so going from 10 to 12 doesn't feel great. But bonus damage is always bonus damage. That's going to help you clear, and I think natural talent is great. And I know I'm going to not complete the page just yet. I did Lee Sin for Koreans, and I put 1 point in vampirism. That's stupid. Let's not do that. Let's get more damage. Lee Sin for Pains, he just goes here anyway. Okay, so we're Kha'Zix. Hell no, we're one-shotting people. This could be fun. We're going to kill people. And this could be fun because we're going to clear the jungle faster. And I think both these can be good. I don't think there's an obvious winner between these two. I think you can go either way. Just to spice it up, we're going to go Bounty Hunter. And Kha'Zix can go one-shot people and stack this up. What's nice about this as well, actually no, because it's going to do the same thing. Like this also gives like you more damage to Dragon and stuff like that. This will hasten your first clear. And maybe that's worth it, to be honest. Because your first clear is really important. So it's actually probably the better choice. What about like a Kindred? What about like a Marksman jungle? Well, let's see what we got. Marksman jungler like Kindred or Graves don't have any hard CC. There's reasonably good use of Thunderlords. There's a reasonably good use of Storm Raider Surge. Generally speaking, if you're ganking around level 4 or 5, you should have enough damage to trigger Storm Raider Surge on like a Kindred or a Graves. And at that point, you run really fast and you catch up to your opponent even after he flashes, and you can dive from under the turret with a red buff and stuff, and that feels pretty good. But at the same time, if you're just getting a gank off, you can just trigger Thunderlord's Decree, get your damage off, and peace out. And keep in mind, as a jungler, you're often not doing long-term engagements. You're doing quick engagements. You're triggering Thunderlords and getting out. You're sometimes just hoping you burst them out or whatever. As a jungler, if you're getting value out of Fervor of Battle, are you really? Are you even playing it right? It's debatable. I mean, it might be good still, and I think there are cases where it's still very good. I know old Kindred forever was correct because Hurricane was a thing. But Kindred's actual attack damage ratios are crap. Graves are good, but at the same time, Graves doesn't feel bad about using Thunderlord's Decree. And just bursting somebody, right? And, Q autoing somebody, and I guess it's like auto E, auto Q or something like that. It depends on the situation. But, okay, we're going Savagery, obviously. We're going Secret Stash, probably. I mean, Riddick Affinity's fine too, but Secret Stash is risk averse. Merciless with 1 point. Why not? There's Greenfather's Gift. We say, okay, well, we're going to do this regardless. I think every jungle's going to pretty much do exactly this every time. Tanks will probably go all the way here and not go Meditation, or sorry, not go Merciless, they'll go Meditation. It's up to you. And then, it's just easy to say, yes, let's go Thunderlord's Decree. It's easy to trigger. It feels pretty good. It's not obviously always the best. And again, like, keep in mind, Kindred has % health damage on the kit. A lot of % health damage on the kit. It is not hard for her to trigger Stormer to Surge and be really quick. But Kindred's already pretty quick, so it's debatable. Yeah, I could see this being very good. Either way, we're going to be using attack speed. Either way, I think we really care about fresh blood because we're a ranged jungler. We are going to land an auto attack on somebody. It's not going to be hard. We are ranged. We're not going to take damage in the jungle. Play well enough to not need vampirism. Do it or you suck. A natural talent. And then, hey, you know what? We could probably go double-edged sword pretty safely. Clear the jungle faster. 5%, we're not going to take damage anyway. Like, this is insane jungle speed doing this kind of stuff. These are all insane jungle masteries. And yeah, this feels pretty good for Kindred Graves. Now, maybe there's optimization somewhere. Maybe, we shouldn't be doing some of this, but, I mean, this is so much damage here. None of these really help you clear the jungle in any meaningful way, but they're all going to help you kill people. And to be fair, like, there's some use in getting exposed weakness. It's pretty easy to trigger exposed weakness as a jungler and get that damage out into people. And that's really good. And keep in mind, also, we've been going through all of these pages, and, right, 20, 19, 18. Only the brand goes exposed weakness. Like, I'm pretty sure with Zyra, we were going Flesh Blood to land auto attacks on people, right? None of these AD carries are doing that. They're all going, Feast and whatnot. Let's think about mages. They're probably going Feast as well. I mean, they could go exposed weakness if they didn't need the health to win the landing phase, but, no one's really getting exposed weakness. Keep in mind, because, half the supports, we'll look at Windspeaker, right? They're going Deep Cunning, and then they're going over to Insight for Resolve, and there's not a lot of people in the support who are going for Ferocity, right? Very few. Only mage supports are going to go in there. And so who's bringing exposed weakness? Exposed weakness is very, very good. I feel like you're completely missing out if you're not bringing this in some form to your team. Because, I mean, no one else is going to bring this Keystone. No one's going to do it. And at a certain point, like, I mean, Fresh Blood is great. Like, let's be real. It's an awesome Keystone. And maybe it's Olaf who should be doing it or something. Olaf can get some real value using exposed weakness and training somebody down and, landing the axe that his teammate can help do stuff. And this might be the right choice. But for Kindred or Graves, it's like, ooh, that's nice and all, but I really want fresh blood. And, okay, I could do 20 damage to you on one auto attack, and that's good, to be completely fair. But if my whole team does 3% bonus damage, someone who has 2,000 health is going to take 60 bonus damage before they die, which is better than fresh blood, right? And it really depends on what you're trying to do. If you are really focusing on tunneling on a 2-on-1 gank and you're going to roam into the mid lane and try to do damage to Victor, then sure, this is fine and fresh blood helps you. But if you're more concerned with power farming and showing up for team fights, you should just go exposed weakness, and that's kind of on your play style. Exposed weakness will never be bad. We're going to go for it here. All right, let's talk about another